Hey folks, so I wanted to just have a quick discussion today on one of my favorite topics, and that is recruiters. So I'm just going to caption this Know Your Recruiter. Basically, we have three different types. I say I put them into three different buckets: internal, external, and sourcers. But before we get started, now I got to say it, please like, share, subscribe. Your engagement helps the channel to grow. You know I appreciate it. Let's get going. Okay, so the first types of recruiter I want to talk about are internal recruiters. A lot of times you'll see these folks have talent acquisition as a title. They could also just have the title recruiter. They work for the company that you are applying for, and they generally work in an HR group. And kind of these types of recruiters are what most people think of when they think of recruiters. One of the things to keep in mind with these recruiters is they're primarily looking for full time employees. Occasionally, you'll find someone who's looking for a contractor or maybe searching out a hired gun, but that's not very typical. The other thing that's great about these internal recruiters is that they may have access to more than one position within the company. So if you're really interested in working for that company, make sure you let that recruiter know that you're open to other positions. For me, internal recruiters are at the top of the food chain. Whenever I get a call from one of these folks, I am super happy. I call them back right away, and always fingers crossed. One thing to keep in mind with all recruiters, however, they are just the first line into the interview process. It's very rare that you will have that first line person tell you no or tell you that they're not going to push you forward. Why? They're not interested in arguing with you. That's why. If they were to tell you they weren't going to push you forward, most candidates would mount a defense and they really don't have time for it. So they'll just simply say, hey, thanks, I think you're great, and I'm going to push you to the next level. That may or may not be true. That's just the way it is. Okay, so the next type of recruiter I want to talk about are the external recruiters. They basically fall into two buckets. One I will call boutique, and the other is the body shop. Let's talk about boutiques. Boutique recruiters, outside headhunters, are really kind of my personal favorite, and that's where I've gotten a lot of my gigs in the past. They generally recruit for one or two custom clients. They look for very specific positions. They may specialize in an industry or in a type of work, and they can really turn out to be people who will feed you good, high quality assignments time after time. They're generally not big places, as I said, boutique, and they can very, very much be a great ally in your job search. Now, the other type of outside recruiter are what I would call body shops. These are much bigger organizations. They employ hundreds of people, and they are very, very active in placing candidates with their clients. For the most part, they're not really too interested in you or your career. They have an opportunity to fill with this particular client. They're not going to manage you. The client is going to manage you. This is not a consulting opportunity. And in some ways, these big body shops can be a great setup, especially if you're looking for contract work or you may be looking to try out a company and you find out that this particular body shop recruits for them. Make sure you're signed up with them. If the gig works out with these big body shops, they can be the easiest to deal with because as long as the client is happy, they're happy. So don't put off the phone call or dismiss these guys. They could be your entrance into a company and a great gig. Last but never least are the recruiters that I would call sourcers. For the most part, these are folks that are offshore. You can very clearly tell who they are by their accent, and they're really not interested in gathering a whole lot of information about you. They're usually going down a checklist. They want to know how many years you've done this or how many certifications you have in this area. Do not waste a lot of time trying to convince these folks that you should work here or you have these skills or whatever the case might be. They're not interested. They're going through a checklist and they are going to pass your resume on to someone else. This is a place for you to exercise some caution with regard to how and who you are distributing your private information. Don't be giving people social security numbers. Don't be giving them copies of your passport or driver's license. I shouldn't have to say these things, but I'm going to anyway. The important thing to know about the sourcers is that for the most part, they will call you if they are interested in hiring you. Following up with them, not really a great use of your time. Use it to follow up with internal recruiters or even the ones who are external who seem like they have a real bona fide opportunity for you. Finally, you're going to get calls from all of these folks who are agents in a sense. And it's important for you to remember that there is not a single person that you're going to talk to who has your best interest in mind. They have the company's best interest in mind. You need to be able to act as an advocate for yourself and consistently keep in mind that the information you're being fed, especially if it's through a third party, may or may not be skewed. Keep in mind to always take everything that is said with a little bit of a grain of salt, especially if it's not coming from the client, because no matter what is going on, they're almost always going to tell you that they're interested and they're always going to paint the job in the most flattering light. The only thing that most agencies and recruiters want is for you to accept the job if the client, if the client group wants you to. That's their goal. So don't think that they're an employment agency. They're not. Don't see them as personal career counselors. They're not. And also, most importantly, no matter who you talk to, always perfect manners, kind, and considerate. They're calling to offer you a job. How awesome is that? They're not calling to sell you anything. They're not a bill collector. They're calling to offer you a job. Even if the job doesn't work out, be grateful for the opportunity because you're getting a phone call and maybe somebody else isn't. Good luck out there.